So, good morning, welcome. My name is Emilia Papadopoulos, and I'm very excited to be hosting this chat today. And hopefully I can do it justice. There are quite a few of us, and we have a lot of important topics to discuss. Just a little bit about me. I'm a former sports journalist with the BBC, covering football, athletics, Olympics, tennis, but I'm a little bit out of practice, so I do hope I do a good job and make sure that all the right messages come across. And I'm very excited to introduce this rather large group of people to you. And I will be doing that in just a second, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the purpose of why we are all here today, and that's because, you know, it's sport and Cyprus. It's some two words that have been intertwined for many, many years, but as the world evolves and grows, we're talking more about it, and we're trying to see how we can utilize our country, our athletes, our people to get to the top of our game. So, you know, the sports landscape is moving very, very quickly, and we talk about strategy, and it's something that's important. We need a clear and integrated strategy. It's not just helpful, it's essential. So I'm hoping that's one thing that we can do today, is come up with a couple of answers to ensure, you know, success, but also equality and a unified vision, and working together to create a really lasting impact. So I was going to let them introduce themselves, but I think you'll be a little bit too humble. So I might just do it with a little bit of fluff, just to big you all up a little bit. So we're not going to do it in any order. We're going to do it upside down. I'm going to start with Alex, Alex Tofelidis, who's here with us. Alex is an Olympic fencer, one of our very own. So welcome, Alex. He is very well known in British sport, but also in Cypriot. He's an accomplished athlete, but he's also a very passionate advocate for athletic development, which is something else we're going to be talking about today. So as an athlete himself, he'll be bringing a really unique perspective to the discussions that we're going to be having. Then we have Andreas Diamandis from Karinia Nautical Club, who I'm so excited to have with us. He brings his coaching experience, but he is also an athlete as well, I believe, since you were 8 years old?
Yes.
Yeah, 8 years old. And he's won a lot of things here and abroad and medals, and he's a very accomplished athlete. He's also a coach. And one of the things that impressed me the most about you is the work you do with disabled people in Cyprus. You go above and beyond when so few people are doing it. You have an incredible para-kayaking initiative where Andreas helps 25 disabled people take part in sport, and he does it all on his own, and we are incredibly proud that he's one of ours. So thank you for everything you do, and thank you for being with us. Then we have next to me Dr. Vassos Kouchoundas. Did I say it right? Yeah, we did practice it beforehand. He is a leading figure in sports governance here. He's served as the head of finance at the Cyprus Sports Organization since 2002, and he plays a key role really in strategic planning, financial management, and EU-funded sports initiatives. So I think, I mean, if we need money, that you're the guy we have to come to. So we really have to work on him today. But he has a PhD in sports governance and a background in economics and accountancy. Yeah, you're a real underachiever, Dr. Vassos. I mean, we should be doing more. But we are really excited to have you here today and hear about, you know, everything that you're working towards and how you see the landscape in the future. So thank you for being with us. And the only other female with me today, I'm very excited. I put her right next to me because we have strength in numbers. Eva Burku, who again is an incredibly accomplished lady. She's the founding manager and partner of WOW Sports, a leading sport consultancy in Cyprus, which has a strong track record in sports marketing, sponsorship, event management. You do it all. Yeah, so, and you've worked across industries, and you have a unique perspective because Eva works with other countries looking at how we can promote Cyprus, how we can bring money in here, how we can improve our sporting landscape. So, again, another underachiever. I think I'm probably the biggest underachiever on this panel, but I will deal with that later. Then we have all the way from Australia, James Dimitriou. Thank you so much for being. He actually came here all the way from Australia because we spoke the other day and you were in Australia. And it is a huge honor. And I think this is a wonderful thing about this forum is that people fly in from all over the world, as far as Australia and South Africa. And so thank you. So James is the founding executive chairman of the Australian Sports Technologies Network, a driving force behind the growth of sports tech in Australia. And he's expanded that network from just over 100 to more than 750 companies, generating billions in value. He has a very distinguished background in mergers, acquisitions, and cross-border investment, and he's raised millions for startups and helped build some of Australia's leading innovation programs. He is also a former elite athlete, which is amazing. And again, one thing that really struck me about you, James, is your work with Sports Without Borders. Coming back to what we said about Andreas as well, involving people, not just elite athletes, but people in communities and creating social inclusion. And I think as time goes by, we will see more and more of why that is so important. So I'm very excited to talk to you about that. We have Johnny Stavrinou, who's also joined us from the Emirates, although he's of South African descent, so we're very happy to have you. Johnny is a long-standing leader in sport development, having served as CEO of Asia Rugby, where he oversaw strategic initiatives across 34 member unions. And he was also the co-founder of Cyprus Rugby Federation, where he's championed the sport's growth for over 20 years. And that can't have been an easy task, bringing a new sport to Cyprus. So we're looking forward to going into that. And he has a finance background, so you kind of... We're going to be talking about a variety of things, so we're really excited to have you here. And completing our panel today, we have the wonderful Mark Clerides, another underachiever. I've got so much stuff here for you, Mark. You've also done so much, and we're so excited to have you here. Mark is the chairman of the Eurobasket 2025 organizing committee. He led the bid, actually, the successful bid to have it part of it hosted here in Cyprus, in Limassol, which is an incredible achievement in itself. He also serves on the Finance Commission of FIBA Europe, and you really have contributed to the sports development, both here and abroad. And apart from his kind of work in sport, Mark is also a seasoned finance professional, currently director at CMK Eurofinance and the CFO at Global Carriers, with a strong background in shipping, investment, and corporate governance. So welcome, Mark, and thank you for completing our panel today. Can we get a little round of applause for these wonderful people? So we're going to start the stopwatch now. Give me a sec. Okay. So I've divided this into 6 parts with the aim that each person gets to answer a couple of questions, because there are a few of us, as we've mentioned, but everyone has strengths in different areas. So we're going to start off with the main topic of this chat, which is why strategy matters in sport. So why do we need a cohesive long-term strategy, and why is it important for success in Cyprus today? And you can kind of look at that there are so many answers and so many different ways the question is applicable. But I'm going to start with Dr. Vassos Kouchountas and ask him, because this is something that you're looking at every day from, I guess, also like almost like a scientific perspective. So why is a long-term strategy so essential for Cyprus in order to help us build a competitive, inclusive, and sustainable sports program?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here, and it's very interesting and challenging to speak among all of you people, and especially all these distinguished guests. Well, it's cliche. We always say failing to plan is planning to fail, but really it's true. And we really feel it every single day. I mean, if you're in a small country like Cyprus, you have limited resources. If you don't plan, you just use your resources wrongly. So under the current CSO sport strategy, we are focusing on 4 main pillars. The first one is not elite sport. The first one is social inclusion. And we try to get into the houses of every single family in Cyprus through our Sports for All program. For those who do not know, the Sports for All runs for all ages, from kindergarten until old person houses. It's cheap for people, it's free for many people, and we're trying to get the benefits of sport that can bring to society. I was following the panel next door previously, and they were talking about mental health and health in general. Sport is a major player in that. And we are really driving some new initiatives that hopefully will bring sports closer to the health area, but we can help with immigrants, with people with disabilities, and all this is part of our social inclusion strategy. So that's our first pillar. Second pillar is elite sports. I mean, we speak about motivating people and providing people with ambitions and pathways. You need elite sports for that. If you do not have people like Alex, that people can look up and say, he did it to the Olympics. Why can't I do it? And he's going to make the process and give people the pathway to achieve their dream to go to the Olympics. Going to the Olympics is not just appearing in a game for 2-3 days, but really it's a whole lifestyle and it's a whole mindset. And you need the mindset of the champion and the winner and the doer and getting over the challenges. And I'm sure when Alex talks, he's going to talk about the many challenges of getting to his target. So our third pillar is infrastructure. If we have no infrastructure, we have no sports. And this is an area where we need a lot of work in Cyprus. The planning of the investment, we will ask the government soon. Hopefully they will get it. It will be nothing that has ever been asked before. We are talking about sport facilities, dividing them into 3 main topics. Firstly, sport facilities for the elite sports. But we also need cheap facilities for the people, for the sports forum programs before, for the local communities, for people that can just walk in, do their exercise and walk out. And also a third area, sport tourism. From the studies we have, we know that Cyprus is not riding the wave, as we were talking with Emilia, is not riding the way exactly of sport tourism. We are doing well, we are doing better than before, but in my personal eyes, we are not doing that well. We have a lot of potential for growth, but we lack the most important thing, facilities. So the third pillar, we will look into it and try and design and try and convince the society that we need to design special facilities for sport tourism. Because you might think that the football field can accommodate everything, but it's not exactly that. And the fourth pillar that we are working on is us, as an organization. How can we become more effective, more efficient, do our job better, to serve the society better? And that's our strategy. But we also focus and try to help sport federations deliver their strategies. We can say whatever we say, but we have no athletes. The athletes belong to the sports federations, like Alex belongs to the fencing club, fencing federation. So when you get our code of good governance for the sport federations, the first article for sports federation is develop your strategy. And because we try to be hands-on, we have developed a manual for them, a manual specifically designed for sport federations in Cyprus to develop their business plan, their strategic plan. Personally, I am much in favor and I really believe in the one-page business plans. I cannot and I will never read 100 pages business plan. Nobody has the time to read and deliver. So what we did for them, and what I'm trying to do internally for our organization, is to keep things simple, understandable, and let the details follow. Once you've got the big picture, the details will follow. That's for now.
Thank you for that. And actually, it's good to have an overview because we will be talking about some of those topics more in depth. And I think it's important for Cyprus to also be willing to look at other nations who have succeeded in long-term strategies or have implemented things that could work here. And actually, James, that's why I want to come to you, because this is something that you know a lot about, and long-term strategies. And what can Cyprus take from countries like Australia or some of the programs you've worked with? How can we better talk to each other, look at what's worked in one country and say, okay, we're a lot smaller, we have a lot less money, but could we maybe look at this formula that you've used to bring success here?
Thank you for that, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today too. I'll relate most of my topic to sports technologies and innovation, which we built from scratch basically. What we did it on 3 bases. One, where was the best practice for innovation in the world? And we went straight to Professor Jerry Engel, UC Berkeley. He and another fellow called Steve Blank, from a billionaire and an associate professor. Those two had developed the I-Core in America, which was the world's best practice on how to innovate and translate and commercialise research. They were the leaders. So Engel came over and we set about putting together our best practice, which was a cluster of innovation. He's written a book and he's the world authority on how to build clusters of innovation. It doesn't matter what sector, it's still applicable and it's the formula. And he would be regarded now as the world's best in that particular space and taken over from Michael Porter's view. So he helped us build this cluster of innovation by bringing entrepreneurs, government, universities, venture capitalists, family private offices, and the actual companies themselves. We brought them all and government, we brought them all together into this ecosystem, and that took us about 2 to 3 years to do it. And we got a grant from Prime Minister and Cabinet, which launched us as a seed funding for us. The second thing we did is then we brought Blank and Engels actually over to Australia, and we spent a week with them, and they trained up over 2 days 200 to 300 companies on how to build a winning playbook. Every sport has a winning playbook. If you don't have a playbook, you shouldn't be doing sport. So playbook is about how do you win year in, and how do you sustain that winning formula. Now the playbook we developed effectively was a pathway program that took an idea to the prototype to an investment ready stage, from investment ready to export ready, and export ready to export acceleration. Australia is an island, or it's actually a continent, but we're only a great market for validation. Mm-hmm. If you want to be serious about doing it, you've got to go overseas to build and scale your company. So in that period, we then we had all these programs developed, pre-accelerators, accelerators, the Export Ready program, which included trade missions, etc., and Export Acceleration, which was to take our best companies and take them to UCLA and UC Berkeley and the University of Washington. And the final pillar was born global or die local. The attitude is you don't back companies in innovation unless they're going to be a global company. So in a country like Cyprus and like Australia, we aimed at taking our companies to populations of 100 million and upwards. You've got Europe in the doorstep at 400 odd million. We focused on the US, which was 40% of the sports technology market. And then also focused on India, China and Europe. And those three, and that program of Born Global then enhanced our whole philosophy, which was how do you enhance human performance for people of all abilities? Because we created technology products for disabled people, for Paralympians, the whole lot. So we covered the full gambit of all of those products. So for everyone here, sports technology, to give you a sort of context, is if you think of advanced manufacturing, sensors and devices, information communication technology and med tech, those technologies, and you apply it to the business of sport. So we applied all those technologies into the business of sport, which was media broadcasting, stadiums, just about anything that's to do with sport has got a technological aspect, including mobile stadiums, which you can build a stadium, literally a modular stadium, three-person basketball. We had all of those done. And then the other part is mass participation. So how do you manage a league or a club? What athletic management systems are there? All of that, and elite sports. So all of that was covered by our sports technology.
But I think also the key takeaway from everything you've said is also that you were never afraid to look beyond what you were doing and go and say, okay, they're doing this really well in the States. Let's find out how they're doing it. And I think, obviously, we'll come back to Dr. Vassos, but is that in our long-term plan? Are we going to other countries and saying, you seem to be doing this really well, or are we just doing everything in-house?
No, indeed. I mean, especially being part of the European Union, and as you next year we will be chairing also the Council of the European Union. We are in constant cooperation with many countries, again, as especially in Europe. We participate and we have led projects that are funded by the European Union or by the Council of Europe. And when we come back later to talk about equality, that's an area we're working there.
Okay, so you're open to the idea of collaboration.
Yeah. And, when I was researching about good governance and things like that, Australia was my first bell because they have really developed a lot. And To me, they are about 2 decades ahead of us.
Yeah.
So, I always say, and I say this to everyone, just copy the good things you see, and Cyprus will be 50 years ahead.
Unless you're in an exam, because we do have
innovate
some younger
nothing,
people here. Don't copy exams, but...
No exams.
And so just on that note, I'm sorry, I'm favouring this side of the panel, but it's just because of the topic, but we will get to you guys as well. Johnny, you're a Cypriot, but you are from South Africa, South African Cypriot. You grew up playing rugby. You came here, you implemented rugby. You started a rugby federation here and a rugby club, but you've also had a huge role at Rugby Asia. So you've kind of worked in rugby across the board. How different was it coming sort of from South Africa to Cyprus and then the 34 countries that you're looking after when it comes to Rugby Asia? What were the main differences, and did you get any ideas of, having been in Asia, then what could be done better here in terms of, from what you'd seen already?
I'm going to answer the last part of your question first. And there is, in all the 34 nations that I represented or was a CEO of in Asia Rugby, there was one element that they never ever had, which was incomparable to ours, and that is the Cypriot passion to wear the flag and represent our country. Nothing compares to this island when it comes to that, and I say that wholeheartedly. In terms of differences, when we came here in 2004, and the only place that you can go and watch rugby was a military base in Akrotiri, and you were not allowed to go in because you were Cypriot. You said, well, bugger that, I'm going to start it myself. Yeah. And it didn't take very long, because there were a lot of rugby players on the island who were hungry to throw a ball around and who wanted to throw the ball around. And so quite quickly we developed, the first club, we developed the second club. There was no strategy, there was no objective, there was no planning, there was nothing. It's just a whole bunch of people gathering in the parking lot of Orfadidi supermarket on Tar, throwing a rugby ball around,
and that's
switching
the beauty
our
of
lights
sport.
on. That's it, switching our lights on at night and throwing the ball around, and then going to work the next day. It looked like we've just come out of Vietnam, But we would do that every week and every week and every week. And so far the first club was formed, the second club was formed, and then the federation was formed. And those were pretty quick to form up, because there was passion, there was want, there was drive, and most importantly, the Cyprus Sports Organization had their doors open for us at any time for anything that we wanted. Credit is not given to you guys the way that it should be done. But even when I went in there for the first meeting, and I'm not going to mention who, and I said, we want to register rugby, I got a shocked look on my face. Saying, Pascala, you really want to have this here. But here we are. Now, in terms of the differences between rugby, Cyprus Rugby and Asia Rugby. As a president of Cyprus Rugby, you sit on the other side of the table and you speak to World Rugby, okay? And you have demands, and you can slam your hand on the desk and you can say to them, I'm not happy with what you're doing, and I'm not happy how you're treating us. And they listen, and they do, and they implement, and they help us. When you sit at the opposite side of the desk and you are the CEO of Asia Rugby, you have to wear the hat of World Rugby. And that becomes more political than it does anything to do for the benefit of the sport, the athlete, and the aspiring athlete. And that becomes very, very challenging to remain loyal to the ethos that you have within you for that particular sport. Okay. What can we implement here from Asia to here? You know what, honestly, apart from the passion that we have here, I think Dr. Vassos has really made some amazing revelations today, whereby we are hopefully going to be seeing a lot more sporting facilities opened up here in Cyprus for all working class people, for all type of parts of the population. And that is important, because that is the pathway to one or the other federation. That starts the pathway to us. Because right now, how we are recruiting on the island is not through sporting facilities. It's word of mouth, it's taking people, suggesting to people to come and join rugby or join football or whatever the case may be. So this is very, very welcome from the Cyprus Sport Organization, because it creates the pathway to go through.
Thank you. And I think that's a really good point, because sometimes we do have really, great homegrown talent, but a lot of them leave they go abroad to train, to get the best of the best, to really give themselves a chance. And I think it's something with the plan you mentioned that could really make a huge difference in keeping our talent on the island and keep it growing. And just lastly on this kind of topic of long-term strategies, I wanted to come to our powerhouse, Eva, because you're involved in so many things behind the scenes. We've kind of heard of the technology aspect and the innovation, and then the kind of the practical implementation, the finance, the governance side. But you're involved with sponsorships, with marketing, with making things happen and ensuring progress. How important is it that your side works with all the other sides to kind of make things turn and make things work well?
It's actually like you're in my head because I was planning to make a combo of the three gentlemen. First of all, I would like to say that so far I've never met Mr. Vassos, and I have to admit that from what he said, I think he's very into what the Cyprus sports strategy means. And I'm very glad about this because we have made lots of discussions in the Cyprus Sport Organization, and sometimes it's like you're giving up. So he's a good sign of Cyprus Sport Organization.
We'll get you his contact details when we leave here.
So what Mr. James said totally and strategically aligns with what Mr. Vassos said before. And what Johnny said, it's exactly what our strategy in Cyprus, the sports strategy, currently needs. Based on my experience the last couple of years, I realized that there are lots of gaps in the sports strategy of Cyprus. I really believe that the plan that the Cyprus Sport Organization might suggest to the government will help, but I don't think this is enough. Because as he said, federations acting on their own, individuals and private companies act on their own, and everybody in Cyprus is like acting on their own individual small strategy. As a small country like we are, it's not possible to proceed doing this. Yeah. At some point, it is so important in order to have a long-term strategy. Because if we need like a short-term strategy, of course, everybody can act on their own, do their own short-term plans, and get the credit accordingly. But this is not the case. Currently, if I'm going to speak from the investments part, Cyprus has a product on the table called sports. So let's use this over a long-term strategy and provide other countries and promote our country, like Johnny said, abroad, and invite so many investors that they are interested to support our sports strategy, support Cyprus Sport Organization, support federations, and in general support our athletes. Because if we're going to speak from the culture part, at some point we're going to run out of athletes. Because we don't have the facilities, because we don't have a long-term strategy. And I think what Mark has introduced with Eurobasket, maybe if we're going to take advantage of this, because we need to think also of the next day. It's not just an event, the Eurobasket, that's going to happen on August.
Huge.
It's huge, yes, but we need to think long term. What are we going to do after the end of Eurobasket? So, and Eurobasket is just an example now that I have said. So yeah, from my perspective, we need to, it's several sectors under
we all need to work together, but I think it's key to remember that this, overnight changes it's not realistic. and these things do take time to align everything, but hopefully
Exactly.
with your plan and your knowledge and everyone kind of coming together in a bigger sense, we can really start changing the landscape.
Exactly.
And I'd just like to move on to our next topic, speaking of challenges. This will get more positive, I promise. We do have positive things as well. But first we're gonna start off with all the challenges, because Cyprus is a small island, and like many small places, we face challenges when it comes to funding, when it comes to our infrastructure, but also international competitiveness, right? There are less of us, there's less money. So this is one of our unique challenges. But I wanted to first come to the point of Alex, who is a professional athlete. Now, Alex, you're a fencer. You're an Olympic fencer, which is an incredible achievement. But sports like fencing often struggle to get the funding over other sports. And how, in your opinion, as an athlete, how can that hinder development as an athlete and stop you from kind of reaching that place you're trying to get to?
Thank you very much. Can I know I'm just a fencer, but can I make
What do you mean just a fencer?
some points on what's been
No,
said?
you're not
Because
just a fencer. You're so much more.
I want to say it's very refreshing to hear these thoughts. And I think if you think of the analogy of Cyprus as like a rowing boat, we all need to be rowing the same way. And that's the nexus of whether that's business, whether that's grassroots, whether that's elite. And I think it was just very inspiring to hear some of the things that people have achieved on this panel. And like you said, we need to take the lessons learned, of course, but we also need to understand we are Cyprus, and we need to build our unique pathway as well, because we cannot be Australia, we cannot be the UK, we cannot be this country, but we can take the lessons learned across the board.
We're going to copy all the good stuff, as Dr. Vassos said.
Yes. So I think that's very good. I think the grassroots stuff is very important, right? And I think we do need role models and competitions. People we have in Cyprus, for example, this Eurobasket and stuff. Young people can see that happening. That can really inspire the next generation. I would also say that we have to have. I would say that you're right. Cyprus is a small country, and you can't focus on every sport. So what I would say, I think from a young level, the most important thing is physical and mental literacy for all athletes across the board. So you're not saying you need to be a fencer, you need to be this from the age 5. They need to have physical literacy and mental literacy so they can be prepared for whatever sport they want to do. And then also, it doesn't, okay, I can say that now being Olympian, it doesn't matter if you become Olympian or not. If you do a sport for 5 years, you take those transferable skills. And if parents, for example, are in schools, should the kids do sport or should they go and study? If they know they can get these transferable skills from just doing a couple of years of whatever sport that is, I think you will also increase participation levels as well.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Sorry.
No, I think it's a really important thing, and we're going to talk about participation in schools and young people, and why it's great to have elite athletes. It's great to see, Alex and Marcos Bagdadis and Pavlos Kondidis on the world stage raising our flag. Nothing makes us more proud. But they are very few. It's very difficult to get to that level, and we can't all be at the level of you guys. And what is important is to get our young people engaged in sport. We talked about it a lot on the phone. Sport changes lives and it saves lives. And I'm sure everyone in this room has an example of that, of how it's changed or saved somebody's life. And I think as a society, we are sporty. We love watching football. We love watching tennis. We like being out on the sea. We have the sea. We have, these free resources like that. And we need to definitely do more about that. But just to wrap up on challenges, I wanted to come to you, Mark. You're bringing an absolutely massive event here. It's a huge thing for Cyprus. But I wanted to ask, because it is such an international event, you ran the bid. How did you kind of get around the issues we had with infrastructure? Because I imagine that must have been a bit of a challenge to meet global standards to that level.
Yep. Thank you very much for the invitation on the panel. Just to sort of clear up any misconceptions, I'm not the only one running the Eurobasket. I'm part of a team, so it's there are other people as well, including the federation, etc.
You're representing them today.
I'm representing them, yes. You're absolutely right that Cyprus has some natural disadvantages that when it comes to luring major events to Cyprus is a problem. Obviously, limited state resources has been alluded to previously. The size of the population is also an issue. Why? Two main reasons. One is the ticketing revenue that you get is obviously smaller than if you're hosting in Germany or Italy or the UK. And secondly, when the time comes to bring in corporate sponsors, again, they measure the return on investment and how much they spend per pair of eyeballs that are watching their brand. So that's an issue. In terms of the infrastructure, again, it's a problem that we've always had in Cyprus. We've tried to build some good infrastructure, but at some point we've just left it and not maintained it properly. So hopefully the whole modus operandi of building and then maintaining and then commercially taking advantage of these facilities, it has to change. I'm going to refer to it later on as well. But going back to the major issues that you have in terms of bringing a sporting event, one of the issues that we faced that we thought we would come across it, but we didn't know it was going to be such a big issue, is that when you are hosting sporting events, usually the host country is also playing in the event. Obviously, we do have world-class athletes in individual sports. One of them is sitting next to me. We also have very good athletes in other sports, sailing, shooting, etc. But when it comes to team sports, we are quite behind. So one of the problems that we had to face with FIBA, which is the International Basketball Federation, was to persuade them that we would make leaps and bounds in terms of the progress of the national team, and that we wouldn't be a punching bag for the other teams. We have made some adjustments. Obviously, it's the first time that a Cyprus national team in any sport is playing in the final phase of a European tournament. So, you have to start from somewhere. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the ticketing, we were lucky enough to secure a partner country, namely Greece, who is the most commercially attractive, I would say, European national basketball team. Not only for Cyprus, but whether they're playing in Italy or Germany, you've got filled stadiums. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the sole reason, I would say. So ticketing revenue has been sort of secured because of the presence of Greece, and then the presence of Spain and Italy, who are also big basketball powerhouses. In terms of corporate sponsors, which was the biggest challenge that I would say we faced as an organizing committee, obviously, if you're talking just numbers, return on investment, it would never work. So you have to paint a CSR picture, a corporate social responsibility picture, to add on to the exposure, to the global exposure that the companies are getting. And thankfully, we found partners in that respect. Global names, a global insurance company that has never sponsored in a serious manner any basketball event, even though they're very well known with their football affiliations, the Allianz Arena, the Juventus sponsorships, etc. So we're very happy in that respect. But going back to the main reason why Cyprus, I think, can attract sporting events is that we're a small country. That's the drawback, but also a strength. You can get the entire country to back your vision or the team's vision of bringing a big event. when we went for the bidding process in Munich and presented in front of the board of directors of FIBA, we were the only country who had the Minister of Finance with us, who stood up and said, guys, we want it as a country, we're going to bring it, and we're going to deliver. Once you're a board member of FIBA who is voting and you hear that from the finance minister of a country, you know, there's no bigger sell than that. So I think the credibility and the common vision and the one team that we can pose as Cypriots all together, you know, I think that's unbeatable.
But I think what's really wonderful with what you guys did is we talked about the challenges, the infrastructure. We're a small country, and you went to Munich to bid for this global event. And what I think is so wonderful of everything you just said is that it came down to heart, right? It came down to a country that said, hang on, listen, we know we're not the best, we know we have a couple of challenges, but we really want this. You guys went out there and you made it happen, you and your team, and you've done an incredible thing for us, but I think that is also part of what Johnny was talking about as well as Cypriots, is that you believe you can, and you took the chance and you've made it happen, and I think it's going to be a huge, it'll be a big milestone for the country, but maybe also a blueprint for future events as well. So I think I would like to give you a round of applause for that. It's a big achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that, you know, in terms of the people that were backing the whole vision, it ranged from the Cyprus Sports Organization, the President of the Republic, the opposing political parties. That is also important because you have to get everybody's backing, not only the current government, but the people that don't like the current government.
But again, that's why everybody sees why it was beneficial for the country as a whole. So people put their own views aside and they say, hey, we're going to back this. It's going to do, you know, it's going to be great for us as a country, as a people, as a whole for many, many years to come. So I think it's an incredible achievement. And just on challenges, we haven't heard from our wonderful Andreas Diamantis from Kyrenia Nautical Club. And I just wanted to move away from the business aspect and talk more about athletes and participation. You work with young people, you work with disabled people, you work with athletes from elite level. You once were one. I wanted to ask you about the challenges of keeping talented young athletes that you see that might come to the club. They're really good at sailing or rowing or kayaking. How do we keep them here? And what are the challenges with that?
Hello, everyone. I think the kids, the family, is the most important because we don't have enough support from government and federations. We don't have the best facilities and equipment, and the family comes to cover all of this. Sometimes the kids feel pressure from the school because a lot of time it's not enough the time in the school, and they need to go afternoon for some lessons, and that's I think the kids is competitive about lessons and training because it's at the same time. If they have to decide what is correct. What we have to do, we have to build better system that connect families, kids, education, and sports. If we have to find this, maybe this is the solution. For example, I remember our only one Olympic medalist, Pavlos Kondidis, when he won the first Olympic medal, he said, the first thing what he said, thank you to my family. Without my family, I will never win the medal. That's it.
Yeah, it's a big support system that's needed behind that, and so many things, and that's really interesting. And actually, we're going to touch on that when we get to our talking about grassroots sport and why it's important. But I'm going to move on to the next topic because I'm quite terrified of Paul if this runs over. We are going to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about, and it's represented on this stage, but we do love all the men on this stage, but we're going to talk about representation, not just in terms of athletes, but women in governance position, women in senior positions within the sport landscape, not just in Cyprus, it happens everywhere. We're all catching up as fast as we can. But I wanted to ask Eva about this because, when it comes to sport leadership, what are the issues and how can we tackle them to create more equality when it comes to women in governance positions?
Okay.
She's like, we don't have enough time to get into this.
Do we have an hour? Okay. So Andreas said something very important that actually has to do with what you're asking. At the age of 12, because I used to be a professional swimmer at Geringa Nautical Club, my mom asked me, are you going to stop swimming because you need to study at some point and you need to decide what you're going to study. My brother, that used to be also a professional swimmer, he never got that question. So let's start from here. I believe that the reason there are not enough women in the sports system, it's because women or our culture have created this mentality. So, for example, I could stop what I'm doing years ago, but I didn't. And I faced a lot of bullying, let's say, from several presidents of football clubs, several men into the sports industry, but I never quitted. I had the chance to quit, of course. We need more women into sports leadership positions, 100%. It's a different mentality.
Is it getting better? Is it changing?
I think yes, but especially in Cyprus, we need to improve our mentality. We need to accept that women are capable to be in leadership positions, even in governance, even in federations. And when I say leadership position, I'm not telling just a member. We're not talking about member.
A decision maker, somebody making decisions.
You need to be a decision maker.
Yeah.
You need to, even men need to understand that there is enough space for all. Because sometimes men believe that a woman is like a threat. No, she knows everything. No, we don't. They are not able to discuss with women because they believe they are a threat of them. I'm not talking about you guys.
We love you all. Yeah, you guys are great. But I think this is another thing. The men on this panel are, well, members of our diaspora, some born in Cyprus, some of mixed. I'm mixed. I know Mark is, Alex is. You guys, technically, you're mixed. But we come to this conversation with a different hat on, right? Because, and many of the people here, I mean, I think we can't generalize all men, because a lot of men have seen women as mothers in power positions doing amazing things, and a lot of people that have lived abroad and seen the way the corporate world works understand that men and women can work very, very well together. And just like all people, we might annoy each other at times, but it can work very well. So I think it's important that we just make that an across the board view, which is much easier said than done.
Yeah, it is, but especially in sports, because we're talking about a powerful industry.
Yeah, and historically, mostly male.
And okay, we get it, but things have changed, and things are going to change rapidly over the next few years. I mean, you can see this from other sectors as well. And we need to realize this in Cyprus and in general. So we're talking also about gender. It's not really gender equality over here, because we're not talking about being fair player into this industry. We need more women into this industry, and we need to grow this mentality from very young age. as parents, we need to provide our daughters with the mentality that they can be in sports, with the mentality that even if they quit sports because of their own decisions, can still be in sports for physical reasons, and of course, if they want to, for career reasons. So we need to provide the kids, first of all, with options, because as grown-ups, okay, we can do some decisions.
That's where it
on
starts,
our.
though.
Yeah,
It
I
starts
think
in
it
childhood.
starts from there.
And I think, just to give you a very basic idea, when I worked in football commentary and production, and I covered everything from the non-league to the Premier League, the Champions League, and every weekend I was covering a match, whether that was at Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, Manchester, wherever it was, I was always covering a match. And after the match, you go down to the tunnel to interview players. And probably every single time I did that, one of the male journalists would turn around and say, "Do you know the offside rule?" And it just became this. And then when I came back here and people said, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a football reporter." And they go, "Do you know the offside rule?" And at the beginning it was frustrating, then it became funny, and then it made me really, really cross. Because there is only so many times you could hear that. But then also here I am with the BBC badge. I don't know, in my opinion, the best broadcasting organization in the entire world. Why would I be wearing this badge, and why would I be here if I didn't know the offside rule? So then I said, okay, well, I can't have this. I need to go and do coaching badges, because if I do coaching badges, then you get to this thing where you're constantly trying to prove yourself. And it doesn't matter how many coaching badges you have, you'll come back here and one of your dad's friends will say, "Yes, but do you know the offside rule?"
Maybe you should tell them that they're offside.
Yeah.
Oh, James, that's a good one. I should have used that. And then you get to the point where you just say, "No, I don't. No, I don't. And I don't need enlightenment." But it becomes very frustrating.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. 3 years ago, I was the general manager, maybe the first one, in Cyprus of a second division football club. Everybody was asking me, "Do you know this? Do you know this?" Okay, at some point I was like, "No, I don't. I'm not a coach. I'm not the one building the football strategy. But I'm the one that I was talking like a man at some point. But I'm the one that I can fire you, or I'm the one that I can decide whether you stay or not." So at some point, you're taking the lead to become like the man of the situation, because it's not funny anymore, you know?
And this is a whole different panel, because then they'll say you're angry and, unstable. But,
yeah.
This is... So that's the next panel after this for anyone that
you
wants to
become
stay.
emotional after that.
Yeah, we're emotional. Oh, yeah, Andreas is going to defend us.
No, I'm in attack. In my club, I have more girls, more ladies from other clubs in Cyprus, and the reason it's not me, it's because I have one girl, 25 years old. She's personality, she's a leader, and she's a champion, and she's the example from the young girls.
What's her name?
Kyriaki Konstantinidou.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear.
And that's why the young girls look at her, they want to be like her, they fight like her, and this is the example. We have to put, my opinion, in our schools, poster with all our elite champions. For example, Eleni Artimata, Carolina, and all of them. And the girls look at these posters and they think, why I can be like this? And
You have to see, we've all mentioned it from different aspects, but if we see that it can be done, then it's not impossible. We can have dreams, we can inspire young women and young boys as well. It's important for them to have role models, but we need more Elenis, more Kyriakis, more Evas. We need more
Based
of all
on
of you.
this, it's very important to include in the strategy of our country ambassadors. Because what I'm provoking as a sports owner, a women's sports owner, a sports agency owner, it's that sports can be, a country can develop a strategy that can be circular. Because if you put sports into this circle, you can understand that you can develop your education system, your sports, your tourism system, your financial system, your cultural system. So everything can be around sports. So especially for a country like ours that is quite small, it's very important for schools and for kids and for grown-ups, for parents, for everyone to have ambassadors. So we need to find out who these people are and promote them. We need to give them the credit for what they're doing, for their talent.
Definitely. I don't know if you know Kyriaki, but if you don't, let's set up a meeting. Let's get that ball rolling.
Her.
And let's start. This is why we're here, right? We're here to make things happen. This has been my favorite part of this discussion.
I'd like to respond.
Go for it.
A little bit, if that's okay. So coming from Asia, where being the CEO of Rugby Asia, you are governed by two fundamental religions. You have Islam and you have Buddhism, okay? And then you have to throw women into the mix. And then you have to take the women and you have to elevate them and you have to put them into senior positions. And man, let me tell you, when I first got that mandate, I thought to myself, this is impossible. Impossible to do it. Well, it wasn't. And we managed to reach the Olympic quota of women in governance at 33% within 18 months of the new administration taking over. And not because of us, not because of men pushing that agenda to bring equality, to bring inclusion. It's because women themselves were hungry enough to follow the path and to do something about it. You know, complaining about it ain't going to help. It's just to do something, shout about it, create an inspirational and aspirational image of women in leadership, women as decision makers, women in sport, and bombard that narrative as much as you possibly can. Because the problem that women make, and forgive me for this, is that once they've reached a particular level, all systems down. I'm here, I've reached, I've done it, I've reached everything, I don't need to do anything anymore. No, that is when you really need to scream and shout. For the 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old who wants to be like you. So it's leading by example, do something, go through the ropes, and when you get up there, shout about it. Shout, shout, shout. As loud as you can.
I'm going to give that. Yeah. Yes, that's what we need. And we also need men to shout for us sometimes, not because we can't do it ourselves, but sometimes when the voices come together, it's stronger, it's more unified. And because we're slowly running out of time and I still have some things we need to cover, so I'm going to just mix the topics up because we're having a chat. But you mentioned something there, and I'd like to come to James. You talked about women and religions and how to get them in, and it's quite confusing. Now, James ran a very successful program, Sport Without Borders, and he told me a story about how he got Muslim women into, was it swimming? I think it was swimming or general sport. But you had a lot of barriers with that. And could you just tell us a little bit about how that worked and why it worked for the benefit of the community?
Thank you for that. Fortunately, I've got two of the people who actually, the co-founder of Sports Without Borders, my son, and also the guy who helped plant the seed a bit here, George.
Are they here with us? Oh, amazing.
So we started Sports Without Borders. Government came to us, said we've got too many newly arriveds and refugees not being able to participate in sport. So we developed a program called Social Inclusion Through Sport. 35% of the people we dealt with were Muslim women, young girls, because our cohort was between 8 and 21. A number of these girls started playing soccer and were doing extremely well and made state level. First problem was fathers did not want a male to be driving them to the football games because they were very elite going to competitions. 2, they didn't want their daughters to have a male coach, which is a real issue in soccer, particularly in Australia. And then there were others who were swimming and they couldn't go to a facility which wasn't protected and was basically giving them some comfort that there were no other males in the vicinity. So we raised millions of dollars, and we basically put 20,000 children through this program over 10 years.
Wow.
And what we were able to do is we got funding to get female drivers to take the girls to the major events. We then, and then in respect to the coaches, we started to train female coaches to work with the male coaches in those clubs. And then finally, we had these women in Cobden, which is a regional town in Victoria. And we went to the local council and said, look, would you, if we can pay you, would you leave this facility open 2 hours a week just for our group of, a cohort of young women, Muslim women, and their mothers to go with you? And they said, yep. So we ended up getting a facility 2 hours every week for these young ladies to be able to go and play, to be able to go and learn how to swim with female coaches as well.
That's incredible.
So, and in the end result, of course, we had a number of them go on and go on to make state leagues, etc. And the other problem is, of course, the Muslim women were, like all women growing up in those areas, when the early migrants, that you're not to be out there playing sport. Your job is either to go to school or eventually get married, and that was it. But so there was a lot of breaking down of those sort of barriers. And we work with a group called the Australian Multicultural Foundation, which is 37 years in operation and world leader in inclusion programs. And they were able to guide us through. And believe it or not, he was my partner. The CEO and the chair of the Australian Multicultural Foundation was my partner. And he was of Turkish Cypriot background from Limassol.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't have any issues, and we were able to then be able to do all this. And as I said, over 10 years, we put 20,000 kids through the process, paying for their scholarships to join. And the last thing we did is we started to put their parents into these clubs. We had to bring the parents in to understand where their
But that goes back to what Andreas was saying about family being at
yes, you've got to get. And one little plug for a Cypriot, an Australian Cypriot, which I should do, you should use her as an ambassador, is an organisation that George Georgiou founded called Athlos for supporting young Greek Hellenic athletes. We had a gold medalist and a silver medalist called Lydia Lassila, Cypriot girl, and she actually lives in Europe in Finland, so you might want to give her a call.
Okay, amazing. Actually, and while we're on this side, I wanted to ask Dr. Vassos, in terms of the Cyprus Sport Organization, is that a priority for you if we're talking about social inclusion? We see our country is changing, it's changing rapidly. We have a lot of different religions and people from different backgrounds that are here. How important is that on your agenda? Offering sport at that, you mentioned before about the program that you run, but is it something that you put importance on?
Well, we are guilty to one extent. If you read our current strategy, there's not a single word about gender representation in boards. But that does not mean that we are not working on it. We are already discussing in changing the good governance code for the sport federations to include representation, as I say, provisions. Personally, I'm not a big fan of quotas because we should gradually change the culture, make it systemic. But I am afraid we need to start with quotas. We need to start from somewhere. And if we don't give them the legal push, things were not going to change. About 20 years ago in Amathus, it was the first European women conference that I attended. A room full of sports women. What I said to them, I think you are addressing to the wrong auditorium. You should have way more men here because unfortunately men still keep the lead in the decision-making positions. Men, very importantly said, should not feel threatened from having women working next to them and even being guided by women. I mean, our previous director was a lady. She was here last year. We had an excellent cooperation and I wish it could continue, but it does not mean that we are not working on it. We are guilty that we are not so much showing out, but also we are applying for European funding.
But you will do after this conversation.
We will do, but we're already doing. I mean, in
I'm
March...
going to keep calling you every day if you don't.
I'll give you my phone number. In March, we applied funding from the European Union to use martial arts sports as a platform how we can elevate women in leadership positions. Let's go, we'll get the funding. and we will keep working on this, and also working in projects with the Council of Europe on gender equality as well.
But not just the gender, and we're talking also about what James was saying about social inclusion. How can we include refugees? How can we provide grassroots sports that ultimately what they do is they take people that have come to a new place and might not be given opportunities. We have to also be realistic. We are struggling at the moment to include people, and sport is a universal language. It's something that unites people. It's something that is it's a very easy way of getting people into society. And I just wanted to talk a little bit to Alex, because, Alex, I know you've mentioned grassroots, but I know you work with, 800-900 school children. I imagine those are all from different kinds of backgrounds. But it must be very important to get young people into grassroots level sport.
Very good pivot. So I think it's important. Yes, I'm an elite athlete, but it's important to give back that knowledge, and that's how everybody in Cyprus will benefit from that. Yeah, so during COVID, while I was waiting for Olympic qualification, I just started a company to deliver sports class in schools in the UK. So
were they all level types of schools, like public, private?
Yeah, private and state school.
Yeah.
So at the moment we do about 900 students a week, about 25 coaches, fencing, of course, and martial arts. So that's what I do. I think I agree with all the things that you said. And actually, they have a similar program in the UK for minorities, like as you mentioned. Fencing is a great sport for that, because it's covered. But
no, I'm just and I'm really happy to hear that you guys are working on it, and even though it maybe is not where it should be, that could be a possibility moving forward.
If I can add, only yesterday we were at the Parliament where we are discussing how to make the prize money we give to people that are either in Paralympics or even Deaf Olympics as a first step towards equality, because it's not only about marginalized groups of immigrants and people like that. With immigrants, we do work through our Sports for All programs. We work there. But sometimes what bothers me, and I'm afraid it can give actually the opposite results. If, for example, you create a league where only immigrants play, that will be a biggest discrimination and a biggest exclusion. So it's very important to be able to mix and match things and give people...
But also with... sorry to interrupt you.
Just the real opportunity to mix with the locals and become part of the society. It's not easy.
One thing we didn't mention in great detail when we're looking at minority groups in sport, we looked at gender inequality, we looked at refugees, different religions, but also disability sport. It's a huge thing, and I think Andreas is, one of our biggest ambassadors as somebody that does it. He's on the ground doing it with heart, with passion, and actually making a huge difference. But I'm sure it has its challenges as well. Is it difficult to arrange everything? Is it difficult to fund it? How can we help? Or you could tell us about the program, the Sport Through Freedom and Mobility program.
Okay.
It's really incredible.
Our program, we call them Freedom and Mobility, because we give the chance, for example, one kid from wheelchair to sit in the kayak, and they have the same opportunities like everyone, just paddling and to exercise. And for us, it's most important to make our place more accessible. And for example, in gym, they can do the exercise, toilets, and the time when they go from wheelchair to the sea and get in the kayak. We have to find the correct equipment, because it's other kind of kayak, and spring kayak and para kayak. We have to teach our coaches how to work with kids. Also, we have to teach the families how to trust us and bring us the kids for training. And then, for me, all of this for clubs and for the teams should be something normal, not something extra. It's normal for one boy, for one girl to come for training. Doesn't matter if they have some problem or not. And for our team, we have two dreams. The first dream is to give the opportunity for the kids to do an exercise, and we focus, specialize what they need that kid. And the other dream, it's one day with that kids to participate in Paralympic Games or Special Olympics, and why not to win a medal and lift up the Cyprus flag because you are from Kerinya flag, and we celebrate for that.
I think that that's also something that should be on the agenda, and I'm glad that we brought it up and everyone's heard. And we have officially run out of time, but I just wanted to wrap up on, we mentioned sport tourism a couple of times, and Mark, you're our go-to man here because you're bringing a lot of people here for this event. And could you just talk us through a little bit of the numbers? Because people on the outside might say, but Cyprus is investing money into this basketball, but our highways need fixing, and our roads are not safe, and you can never please anyone. But I'd just like you to talk a little bit about the numbers, why this also makes sense for us as a country.
Sure, to persuade, everybody here in Cyprus, especially the government, the numbers do the talking. It's all good and well talking about national pride, talking about youth engagement, talking about sustainability, but if the numbers don't work, you don't get a green light. So in terms of our budget, we're talking about a budget of 7 million for organizing. We are getting about 35% of that from the government. But the government will get all of that back in the form of VAT and indirect taxes. We're talking about an economic contribution to the country for hosting this event of about 17 million euro. And these are very conservative numbers. They have been prepared and signed off by EY. And we think the 17 million will be surpassed easily. So essentially the government is putting up money, but they're getting it back. So this is a golden opportunity for Cyprus to showcase the best of what it has. Star athletes from across the world. We're talking about athletes with Instagram accounts of 20-25 million followers. All you need from them is a post, having a great time in Limassol. This is sort of exposure that money cannot buy. I know we're conscious of time, so in terms of legacy, I think the two biggest parts of the legacy are the infrastructure. The stadium that has been renovated on the account of the Eurobasket, but this is something that will stay for other sports, and we hope and encourage other federations, be that volleyball, handball, or whatever sport which is played in indoor arenas, to go and attract the large sporting events. The second largest legacy that we hope to leave behind is we hope that the Eurobasket acts as a trampoline or a springboard for youth engagement. We expect that the basketball academies come September will be filled up. And then again, we'll circle back to the question of infrastructure and what Dr. Vassos was mentioning.
But also hopefully some of that revenue can then be pumped into our sporting landscape.
Exactly, yes. The event in itself should be profitable, so we will be pumping back money into the sport. And one last point is the culture of volunteerism. That is not in abundance in Cyprus, obviously, but we are running probably the largest volunteer program ever to have happened in Cyprus. We're talking about 400 volunteers. Very happy to say that more than half of them are Cypriots, and the balance being from any country in the world you can imagine, from the Far East, from Latin America, Greece, obviously. So this is another big bet that we're putting forward, and hopefully it will leave a lasting legacy.
I hope so too. So as we're coming to the end, I would just like to give all my panelists a chance to wrap up any thoughts that we didn't manage to get through. So if anyone had something they wanted to say before we close up, I would love to give you that opportunity. So James, we're going to start with you. We're going to go around in a circle.
2 points. One, on funding. Cyprus needs to be very cognizant of ESG, environmental societal governance, because that has a lot of CSR in it. And if you don't abide by that, particularly in Europe now with its regulations, you won't get funding from any multinational, any listed company, etc. So you should be aware of that. And secondly, how do you make facilities work subsequent to an event? You build into that an education programs called Learning Life Centres, which bring kids into those facilities on a, once a year or twice a year, where they learn about the place, where that facility is, but the origins of that place, the community. You build in health, you build in sport and recreation, and ICT, information communicate into that, and you've got yourself the extra. That's what I'd be doing with what you've got.
Thank you. Johnny, do you have any closing argument or anything you'd like to say?
Just to say that, the athlete, the established athlete and the aspiring athlete or sports person is any federation's most valuable resource. Protect it as if it was the last piece of gold on this earth. And if you do that, you represent them properly, you become accountable to them, your strategies will work out properly, your objectives will come out properly, and they will be reasonable at the end of the day if you look after our most valuable resource, which is the athlete, the aspiring athlete, and the developed athlete.
Thank you.
I mean, there could be no sports without athletes, so this is the most important thing. And we'll be very quick. 2 things, sport tourism. Next year, as you know, of the presidency, our main theme and what we aim to take to the Council of the European Union is sport tourism as a driver for sustainable economic development. So this is what we will focus next year. We really believe in the possibility of sport tourism to elevate both economically but also from a sporting perspective Cyprus. So we will work on it. And another point on grassroots sports, we are now in a pilot phase of changing our funding criteria. And one of the funding criteria will be how many kids do you have in your federation. It's very, very important for us, and we're going to make a difference. It's going to take years. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but we are hopefully starting a new phase. Is what I call on my big mind chart I have, GOA 2, Cyprus Sports Organization 2.0. We have to restart.
Yeah, very good point.
Okay, so to wrap up, I agree with Vasos, what he said about it is very much need to have a look and make a research on your federations. It's and if they provide you with these kind of numbers, you will also be able to proceed with a greater budget planning as well. Now, regarding sports tourism, as I've said in the beginning, sports, it's a great product currently for Cyprus. So we literally need to get into this from all the perspectives. Mark is doing with his team this great start with Eurobasket. Numbers are going to speak, like he said. So it's going to be a great case study for our country. A great case study to promote abroad and to invite also investors, sports investors. It is very important what I'm saying right now, because several funds from all around the world are interested to spend millions and billions of money in our country, but we're not capable to present them even a sports project. We need to understand that...
We'll get you Mark's number as well.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's a great case study what they're trying to do over here. And let's take advantage of it.
Let's do that, and let's work together. Alex?
Yeah. It's been a very refreshing panel to listen to everybody, and I think the same way in my personal training, I always have a holistic effort, whether that's physical, mental, technical training. I think it's the same thing for sport in Cyprus, and today, it's the holistic effort. Grassroots doesn't work without funding, not just from the government, but from the private sector. So I think it's, if in the future these things can work in tandem, and we have better infrastructure to attract foreign teams and stuff to come here. And I think it's very attractive. That's going to trickle down to the rest of the grassroots, and the Cypriots will benefit across the board, whether elite athletes or grassroots as well.
Thank you.
So we're very cognizant that we're under the spotlight as the Eurobasket Organizing Committee, not only internally in Cyprus, because we think we'll be the proof of concept for bringing other major sporting events in Cyprus, but also for FIBA. For FIBA, this is a huge wager. The Eurobasket contributes more than 70% of its revenues. So this is what drives basketball development in Europe. And for them to entrust their crown jewel to the smallest country ever to have hosted this event is a huge wager for them. So we will be delivering an awesome event, having in mind player experience and fan experience of the next level. I mean, we will have high-profile visitors, CEOs of large companies, sports team owners from the US, who are accustomed to a certain level of players and hospitality as well. So we will elevate every experience possible, and hopefully set a blueprint for other major sporting events to come here.
Thank you so much. Andreas, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just I will give some advices to parents. Give the opportunities to your child and invest on the talent that they have. Okay?
That's and that's my takeaway from today. It's that family is everything. It's that looking at this public-private kind of coming together to put on amazing events. It's the Cyprus Sport Organization willing to tackle the challenges we have, but also doing an amazing job at what you do. So we thank you so much. And having all of your expertise, it's been amazing. We loved you being a hype man for the ladies. It was my favorite part of today, but I think you're very good at getting the point across, so thank you for that. And
a big well done to the team captain for today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We actually don't have time, but if anyone has a question, we are rule breakers. So if anyone has a pressing question, or if there's anything you'd like to ask, or if you want Vasos or Mark's number, they're also here available. I'm just going to be dishing out everyone's number. Thank you so much. And we appreciate that. And actually, I think we all agree with everything you've said. And the one takeaway is that, great things happen when we work together, and we're going to do more of it. And we thank you for being here and for being with us for the last hour. We appreciate it. Thank you.